Legend of Total War here, and today I want to do a bit of an update video on the state of Total War Warhammer 3. It's almost been a full year since I made a video called the State of Warhammer 3, which I released on the 8th of September 2023. It got nearly 400,000 views because this was a very hot topic at the time. So a year ago, almost today, so on the 1st of September 2023, that is the date that Shadows of Change came out. So I made this video about a week after. Now, obviously, it's easy to forget because 12 months is quite a long time that Shadows of Change happened, and things have vastly changed since then. So what I want to do in this video is basically reflect on what it was like back then and have a look at how things are right now and basically compare the two. Because it's been 12 months. And how's the last 12 months been for Total War Warhammer 3? Has it been all good? Has it been all bad? Or is it somewhere in between? Has it been a mix? Let's dive into it. So if we have a look at this screen grab here, this was one of the most replayed sections because people wanted to listen about what was the concurrent player base. Now, when it comes to a single player game, oftentimes it doesn't really matter about what the concurrent player count is, but it gives you an idea of how popular the game is and how replayable the game is. So basically, with Total Warhammer 3, it's kind of it's semi like a hybrid live service game because Creative Assembly, that they get your subscription by you paying for the DLC that they release at a fairly regular interval and keep you constantly, I guess, addicted to the game. But it's obviously not like a true live service game. So in order to keep people coming back and buying the DLC, they have to keep the player count up. And I think that's been a fairly well-established thought with this game here. So after Shadows of Change, this was 1 week afterwards, the peak player count was 33,000 and was averaging about 16,000. That was right after the DLC, and that was a 20,000 peak in the past 24 hours. Now, if we compare that with right now, okay, so if I switch it over to Steam charts here, so this is just refreshed just a few moments ago, and here we can see that the, I'm not recording this video necessarily at peak time, and that doesn't really matter, but the peak in the past 24 hours has actually been 25,000, so it's actually 5,000 better than what it was 12 months ago, but it's actually better than that because we are like 3 months off from Thrones of Decay. We're not just coming off it. Like if I had been making this video 1 week after Thrones of Decay had come out, this would have been a much higher number, as we can see here. So Thrones of Decay peaked at 73,000 peak players, averaging 35,000, and then in June, like the next month afterwards, it was still averaging more than what the peak is now. Now, you would expect things to decay over time as people play the DLC, get tired of it, and then move on to other games. There's been some amazing games come out recently, like Concord, for example. I'm obviously joking. Yeah, I'm sure, I'm not sure not even a single person that watches me plays Concord, because there's like 90 people that play it currently. Anyway, I don't even know why I brought it up. But, it is decaying. Slowly over time. This is basically what happens. The DLC comes out, and then it just slowly decays over time. But the better the DLC is, it keeps it going for longer, basically. So even several months after the DLC has come out, the average player count is still. This is basically what we were seeing in Warhammer 2, like at the end cycle of Warhammer 2. And considering Total War Warhammer has now been out for such a long time, this is much better than what we were seeing back in September of 2023. So what Creative Assembly has done has really brought back a lot of the players back to Total War Warhammer 3, which has been great. I mean, I really don't have that much to complain about over the past 12 months in regards to Warhammer 3. They've continuously been upping the quality of the support for Total War Warhammer 3. But I also want to remind people as well about that statement that Rob Bartholomew made when it was like, this is the price it costs to support Total War Warhammer 3, and how the community just didn't accept it and forced Creative Assembly's hand to actually up the quality. They had the power all along to release the quality of Thrones of Decay, and it's really important that we remember what happened with this, because history does have a habit of repeating itself, and I'm going to keep reminding people over the next few years about this, and keep reminding them, remember, you know, all the stuff that happened in 2023 and 2022, because things seem pretty good at the moment, but history has a habit of repeating itself, and so I kind of want to remind people constantly so that we at least delay the inevitable next fall, the next fall from grace that Creative Assembly have, because I don't enjoy that at all. What we've got right now, this is kind of like, this is what I like, just, I don't have to report on the stuff all the time, and if I do report on it, I don't have anything like negative to say about it. So it's been good. It's been a good 12 months for the game, I think. So another thing I wanted to just go over really briefly is Hotfix 5.2.2. So not a whole lot in here, but the fact that they've actually added a little bit of content in regard to the Deeps feature, like the Dwarf rework is getting a rework, basically. They're just getting rework on top of reworks. But funny thing is, it's going underground. So if we go into the game just briefly, they've added a new mechanic, which to the Age of Reckoning thing with the Deeps, which you can only build this particular structure in a unique deep building. So that's at Skavenblight, Karak 8 Peaks, or Zarnagrand, I think. Let me just confirm that. Hang on. If I go here. Yeah, Skavenblight, Zarnagrand, Karak 8 Peaks, yeah. I'm pretty sure all the deep locations will be unique. So this campaign here is the Clan Angren campaign that I've been playing recently. So you don't have to start a new campaign in order for this building to be added. They've added this building chain here, which I think was a really great idea. And it really shows that they're actually listening to feedback and acting on it, rather than just saying, we're listening to feedback, and then just doing nothing about it, which was basically what was happening last year. So what we've got here, this is to do with the Age of Reckoning system. And I think with this, there's basically something here for everyone. So at the first tier, they're basically structured the same way with these other buildings here. You've got basically two different playstyles that's catered for here. The aggressive player, where if we just go to the top of the chain here, increases the number of grudges required for each Age of Reckoning by 10%, but gives you a global bonus to your grudge settler units, reducing the upkeep cost, increasing the number of grudge settler unit capacity per army faction-wide by 3. So that means you could get it up to 9 through these buildings by building all 3 of them. So hang on, let me just do maths in the head, which I'm really bad at. But if the previous maximum of grudge settler units was 8, and you can now increase it by an additional 9, that means you can have, 17? Is that right? 17 grudge settler units in every single army. I mean, it requires you to basically finish a tech tree, do a bunch of legendary grudges, and get all 3 of the unique locations sorted. But that's pretty cool how you could essentially have almost an entire army made out of grudge settler units now. So I really like that they've done that. And of course, the other bonuses are fine. Although the reduced upkeep cost becomes negligible when you've built enough of these. And then, of course, there's the other chain here. Hall of Remembering sealed. The Age of Reckoning system will be permanently paused while this building is present, but it will increase your upkeep cost of grudge settler units for all armies by 10% and require a constant maintenance of 2,000. So this is really interesting because I think this will benefit turtlers. People who are just never getting the Age of Reckoning system up to Nollengrom. They're constantly stuck in the Elgi and Scruff stage. So what this does just turns it off and makes it so that you don't get any benefits and you don't get any penalties from it as well. Now, personally, I think that just by playing the game, even if you're not expanding, you should be fighting enough battles to, at the very least, get to 50%. Depending on the situation. Obviously, in this campaign here, things got a little bit ridiculous due to my border, so I've got 43,000 that I have to get. But that's because, again, I've expanded all over the place, and there's grudges all over the place to settle. But even then, I managed to get to 50%. I've still got turn 8. I've got 8 more turns left to go in order to finish it off. And I'm still undecided about whether or not we'll do a episode 4 of this one. Let me know in the comments below if that's what you want. But all I can say is, the fact that they've added, a bit extra on a hotfix, this is more than what they would sometimes add in an actual patch, prior to Shadows of Change. So there has been a massive improvement in the attitude of Creative Assembly, where they're just listening to feedback, like, what they did originally with the deeps, I was like, that's good enough. But they're like, oh, but people want more? Okay, we'll just give them more anyway. And it was completely free. It was just, like, adding on more value onto it. And what they're doing, I think, is finally rebuilding community goodwill. And I think they're going to be in a good position for when the next DLC does come out. November, December, sometime around then. People will be in a good mood rather than a bad mood, and be able to swallow probably another $25 price tag for the Three Lords. I hope they do what they did with Thrones of Decay and split them up into, you know, each individual lord. I'm pretty sure they're going to do that, but I have had no confirmation about that. I mean, that was very well received, you know, being able to pick and choose which lord that you want. So I don't see any reason why they wouldn't do that again. But again, I don't have any information on that at the moment. So, just going back to this is all really good, and going back to here, this is all quite promising as well. As much as, you know, it is going down at the moment, it's going down fairly slowly. And, you know, you can't expect people to play a single-player game endlessly. But one thing I can tell you from my personal experience is that I am playing Total War Warhammer 3 in my own spare time more often than I was prior to Shadows of Change, or even after Shadows of Change for a bit. Because the game is better now than it was before. It actually sort of feels a little bit like we're there back at Warhammer 2 days, where the game is actually providing a decent amount of challenge. I don't think it's quite there in terms of challenge just yet. I've been playing a couple of campaigns, and some of them I think are a little bit, like, the AI still doesn't really build up that many armies. I think in my Clan Angren campaign, it was a bit of an anomaly, just because I went up against two greenskin factions that simultaneously had a war going, and so they were boosted by the additional cheats that they were getting, and then boosted even further because of the wars, and so that may have led to like a sort of a false sense of like doom that was upon us, because we ended up handling it fairly easily in the end there. Well, it took a while, but you know, we got them both, Skarsnik and Wurzag. So this is all very promising. So yeah, that's all I've really got to say about, like, the state of Total War Warhammer 3 at the moment. Like, things seem to be getting better. You know, the end times is coming. You know, not for another, who knows, hopefully 2 years. But one day, you know, it will end, Total War Warhammer 3. But I think we're ending it fairly well now if Creative Assembly can just keep things going. But it's always really important that you guys constantly provide that feedback to Creative Assembly. You know, let them know when you like something, and let them know when you don't like something as well, because they do actually seem to be listening, because they didn't have to do this, and people provided feedback, and they were like, yeah, this makes sense. You know, they've added in a feature for totalers, but the Age of Reckoning is basically there for really aggressive players, and so they gave you a way to turn it off. Now, of course, it's only in the unique settlements, so if you're playing as factions that don't start anywhere near those 3 unique settlements, you'll have a hard time turning off the Age of Reckoning. So it's going to be a lot easier for Thorgrim, Ungrim, Thorek, and Belagar to turn off the Age of Reckoning than it will be for Malachi and Grombrindal, because they don't start anywhere near them. You basically need to confederate somebody that's close to the location and then be aggressive and conquer that particular location for the deeps in order to turn off the Age of Reckoning. So I don't really know of any better way that they can handle it. You definitely shouldn't have that building be able to build everywhere because it's so powerful, potentially. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think what they've done here is about as good as you can get for it. But yeah, overall, very happy, especially with the Dwarf rework. Man, I would actually go so far as to say the Dwarf rework was pretty much on par with what they did with, like, Warriors of Chaos and the Beastmen, which is really good, because that's what I've really been wanting to see, is, like, with these factions that have really fallen behind, like the Dwarves, they have just massively caught up, and now the Dwarves, I play them all the time. I play them in my own time now, and actually really enjoy the Dwarf playstyle, just because of all these extra features, allowing me to really compound onto my particular playstyle, as opposed to being forced to play down a way that I don't want to play. I've now got an incentive to do things the way I want to, which is really good. That's the way it should be, and giving players the choice to play differently, because I really don't think it's a good idea for this game to just sort of pigeonhole people into one direct play style, and if you don't like playing that way, well then too bad. Giving people options is always a good thing, and I think that's what they've been doing. It would be good to see Nurgle maybe get a little bit more of an update. Maybe that's something they're working on, maybe not. I'm not entirely sure, but what they've done with the Dwarfs is amazing. Anyway, like I said, this is there's really not much doomsaying I have to say in this video here. The state of Total Warhammer 3, in my opinion, is pretty good. I think we've been eating pretty well lately. I mean, we've had to wait a very long time in between DLCs, but I would much rather wait 7 months between DLCs and those DLCs be good than get a DLC every 4 months and they be like, Shadows of Change at launch. Like, that was it just wasn't even worth playing. I remember when I had Shadows of Change Early Access, and I was like, I don't even want to play this. This is not good. And now I play it all the time, and it's like 3 months after Thrones of Decay. So things have massively changed. And kudos to Creative Assembly and to Mitch, who seems to be heading a lot of these mechanics on turning things around. And it's pretty interesting how things can change in just 12 months. So I reckon I'll do another one of these videos 12 months from now, and hopefully it'll be even more positive. I'm certainly not rooting for this game to fail. I never have, and I never will. But if things are going off the rails, I'll obviously put the alarm bells on. But at the moment, I don't need to put the alarm bells on. But, you know, we all just need to make sure we're providing Creative Assembly with the feedback that they need to do a good job, because they seem to be very receptive to it at the moment. So that's great. So anyway, that's the end of this one. Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear what you guys think of how things have been going with Total War Warhammer 3. Are you happy with the quality of the updates? Are you sick of them focusing on the dwarves? You want them focusing on other factions? I mean, they've definitely said that they've got other factions on their radar. We just need to wait for patch 5.3, I guess. Probably. Just have to wait and see for that. That probably will be like 6 weeks away, I guess. This is just guessing, though. I don't have any inside information on that, because I haven't been asking. I just don't care right now, because it's all been going good. I'll just let them do whatever they want. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are, because I think it's important to keep this conversation going so that we don't just fall back into old habits. That's really important, that we don't repeat history by getting complacent and then allowing Creative Assembly to just pull another bloody Shadows of Change out and be like, well, this is what we need to do to support Warhammer 3. And then the whole game starts to spiral downhill. So let's try to keep the momentum going. And the way to do that, I think, providing positive feedback to Creative Assembly, I think, is very helpful. So if you're doing that, good on you. The way to do that is through any means. Post on one of their videos, or in the Reddit or the Total War forums. It's entirely up to you. But just keep giving them feedback. You guys have been doing a great job. Anyway, it's the end of this one. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time. Later, guys.